Hey y'all, it's Matthew with EverLogic, and I'm here with my good friend and EverLogic president, Mike Goodwin. And today we're going to discuss a few of the things that we think will help make EverLogic more efficient and things that can save you a lot of time. So before we jump into that, Mike, I really wanted to ask you, when you're going through different designs with EverLogic, new features and stuff like that, how important it is to make sure that all these new features can help dealers save time and go through these processes with ease.
Oh, thanks, Matthew, and welcome everybody to our webinar. Basically, in our development process, we take ideas from our customers, and to make sure that it's useful, a lot of times we have to put together a mock-up or a prototype, and we'll have our team internally look at it and try it, and just make sure it's kind of user-friendly. And then we'll get a customer or two to maybe review it, or sometimes we will do a beta release and have people give us feedback. And then based on that, with that feedback, maybe we'll make changes to make it more user-friendly. Ultimately, what we're always trying to do is just reduce the number of clicks that people have to take to do an action, and try to streamline the process as best as we can.
Perfect. Well, let's go into our top 10 time savers with EverLogic. And the first one we have listed, I know it's a very popular feature with EverLogic, and I know it's one of the things that we always talk about during training is Flexviews. So can you tell the folks what Flexviews are and how you can use them in your everyday processes?
Okay. Basically, Flexviews are a custom report where you can pick and choose the columns you want to see, what information you need, and you can save it and memorize that. So what I like to coach dealers to do is, hey, maybe there's like 5 or 6 things that you like to look at every day or every week, depending on, what your role is in the dealership. But you can build yourself these Flexviews, and then when you come in the morning or whatever time you're doing your reviews, you can just quickly, knock them out and take a look at the information and then go on with your day. So let me show you a sample of a Flexview and kind of how it works. And I know that our trainer, Jennifer, spends a good amount of time with our new customers and training them up on how to use them. But for people that haven't, seen them in a while, or maybe you're new to EverLogic and never went through training, I'd like to just show you. So I'm just going to click on sales operations. Basically, anytime that we're trying to, I'll do an inventory search. That's something that people are mostly familiar with. So I'm going to click on the search inventory here, and I'm not going to give it a whole lot of criteria, because the less information or the less I try to filter it, the better. And so I'm going to just search on everything. I'm going to just do an in-stock search. So let's down here, I'm just going to say, give me everything that's in stock. Basically, when you have the information come back from there, if you right click or right mouse click anywhere on this grid, it allows you to use our column setup chooser. And so what that does is it allows you to go through and pick and choose what columns you want to see. So let's say I'm trying to make an inventory list or an inventory lot sheet for my salespeople. And so I'll ask my sales guys, what's information is important to you that you're going to have on the lot, or something that if you're going to be sitting in front of a customer, something that you can quickly access. So in this case, I'm going to probably want to see the stock number. Serial number is probably not as important. The year, make, and model is important. The trim, the type of vehicle I'm thinking is important. The color of the interior is most likely. Most RVs are typically white on the outside, so we're not going to really worry too much about that. Then we want the selling price. That's very important. And that's probably about it. Maybe I might want to add a few more columns, like the length or the weights and things like that. But once I do and click save, it's going to give me back the list, and it's going to give me those columns that I want. So from there, you can do things like rearrange the columns. So I might want to have the vehicle type, for example, at the very front. So I just left mouse click, hold it down, drop it, and then I can see all the information in that first column. And then maybe I want the stock number at the back, because that really doesn't mean much to a customer, but it's going to mean something to me. So now I've got the information organized the way I want. what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to save that information. So I'm just going to click up here in this header, and just beside that, there's a little thing that looks like a hand that's on a file folder. If you click that, down here, it gives you a Flexview setup, give it a name, and I'm going to type in a name called the lot sheet, and then I'm going to save that information. And then it's going to rerun. So now it remembers that. So now anytime, I'm going to close out of this, but anytime I want to come back to that lot sheet, I can just quickly go to my home tab here, and then there's this Flexview area. And in that Flexview area, I can just click on it, and I can see in here I've got a series of Flexviews already saved from previous times I've been in my software system. But I want to click on the lot sheet, pull that up, and it comes back with my vehicle lot sheet, just the way that I would expect it to. The columns are arranged the way they want. If I had any sorts, that information is going to be there. So you can pretty much do that throughout any part of the system where you have something that says search. So if you're a service manager and you want to look at, repair orders, you can do a repair order search. And then, say I want to look at all my open repairs, I can click through that, get my list, then from there, quickly go in and pick and choose the columns I want to see. And so I'm going to just do a quick one here that is total with the unit information. Maybe it's I need the customer and who the service writer is. So now I've got this information quickly in front of me, and then again, just go up, give it a name. So that's how the Flexviews work, and I think it's a huge time saver for anybody in the dealership. Depending on your role, just pick and choose what you want to see.
All right, let's move to a sales function that can help folks save a lot of time. This actually involves one of our integrators, AppOne. So can you go into not just what AppOne is, but how that works within EverLogic?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me start by showing you how to access AppOne, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what it does and how it functions in EverLogic. So let's say I'm in a quote. We pull up a search my quotes here. I'll just do stuff that maybe is in a pending status. So I've got these quotes that are in a pending status. I'm going to pull up one of these quotes. And to get to the function for AppOne, you go to your View More settings, and then click on Closing Documents. And basically what AppOne is, it's a lending portal. I always kind of equate it to like a lending tree, that people might know about just in the general marketplace. But essentially it's a portal that allows you to access a lot of different banks. So if, for example, if you're set up with Bank of America or M&T Bank or Bank of the West, different banks that participate with AppOne, then you're able to send your information about the deal. So, what the amount of the deal is, any products that you might be selling in terms of the sales. So like aftermarket products like gap insurance or extended warranty, paid protection, things like that. You can send all this information directly to this vendor AppOne that you have an account with. And from there, then you can pick and choose what banks you want to shop this customer with. So you're going to be looking for the best buy rates, things like that you can obtain for that customer. Once you've decided on which bank, sometimes you'll even process a lot of your paperwork over there. Like you may end up printing out your truth of lending disclosures, and all of the finance kind of paperwork can be printed out of the AppOne portal as opposed to EverLogic. So all we need to do, you need to have an account with AppOne, and then you need to tell us at EverLogic what your account information is. You can put it in there yourself, but a lot of times people just send it into our customer service department. Send it into support@everlogic.com, and we will get the credentials put in properly for you. And then when you're on a deal, you just click the Send To button. And if you have a valid account, it's going to send, you're going to see some craziness on my screen here, but Basically, it sends what we call an XML file directly to AppOne. So it connects from our system directly to the AppOne interface through the web, sends the information over to them, and then from there you can do whatever you have to do in AppOne. And then when you're finished, that information can come back to EverLogic. So we have a bi-directional interface. In terms of setting that up, you have to get with our programming department, but it's not overly complicated. Just really, let me go back here. What we're doing is we're mapping any fees or products that you're selling. We're making sure that the name, so like if I call it a service contract and AppOne calls it an extended warranty, I know that those two names match, right? So we can build something in our system that says, hey, when it comes back from AppOne and it says this is the value of the extended warranty, let's say you send it over, you're going to sell it for $3,500, but through the negotiation process that number may have changed. Let's say it goes down to $2,700. Well, you're not going to want to have the $3,500 over in EverLogic. You're going to want to have $2,700. So we can get that information to come back into EverLogic, which is going to save you a ton of time because you don't have to rekey it. You're not going to make mistakes like, hey, for example, if you forget to update it, but then you print out a buyer's agreement for the customer or some other paperwork and it has that information on it, and if it's inaccurate, you're going to have to reprint it or you may have to recontract. So having that bi-directional interface set up is really going to save you a lot of time.
All right, well, we're going to cast a wider net again, and we're going to talk about the copy add function. And, you know, kind of like Flexviews, it intersects in different parts of EverLogic. So can you go through the copy add functions?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the major forms that we have, like your deal, parts, service, inventory forms, where you're maybe doing things multiple times over and over and over again, we have a copy feature. So for example, if I'm on this deal and this customer wants to swap out the inventory on this, instead of like going through it or just swapping out the inventory, like taking this and adding a new piece, what I may want to do is, I won't save my changes here. What I may want to do is just copy it. So let me show you that. So I'm going to pull up a deal. And let's say the customer says, hey, I don't want to buy this Outback, or maybe they're looking at 2 or 3 different units. So I want to keep the original quote because I may end up selling him that. But let's say he wants to get quoted on like a 5th wheel or something. So I just click on the View More menu and click Copy. What it's going to do is going to produce a brand new reference number. So that means it's a brand new quote. And it's going to copy over all of the information from the previous quote to this new quote. Once I click Save, I'm going to, get that new reference number, but now I can make changes to it. So if I need to swap out the inventory, or maybe they don't want to purchase the extended service contract, so I can keep the original information of what I was going to do, but also now I can manipulate it and make a brand new quote. And now you can have 2 things maybe side by side, for that customer. So that's how I would use it in the deal information with deals. And if I was in inventory, a lot of times where this is very handy is like if you sell, let's go to sold units, for example, or if I'm just finishing up a sale. So let me just click on search inventory. I'm going to do sold. But where this would be very handy, Matthew, would be like, hey, I just sold the unit. Now I need to restock the exact same unit. Well, I don't want to have to rekey everything. So I can just pull up what I sold. So let's say I sold this Airstream. And then I'll just go into the Tools menu, click Copy Inventory. And basically it will copy over all of the relevant information that makes sense. Like it didn't copy over any of the who it was traded in by and things like that. But I can now assign it a new stock number. So let's say Airstream and whatever that VIN was. So I'd fill in your VIN number, fill out what my purchase cost was. Now let me save this here. And then, sorry about that. Fill in what I'm purchasing this for. So let's say it's $50,000, for example. But it's just an easy way to get that unit back in the system without having to rekey, your description and notes if you have a long description about it or things like that. And then your year, make, model, and any of the other properties about that vehicle, they're all there for you. So we have that available on inventory. We also have it available. Something that gets used quite a bit is on the repair orders. So for example, let's say I have a repair order that I need to copy all the information. A lot of times we use it for refunding. But if you just go up under the tools menu, you have that copy feature. And basically here you have a duplicate and a return. So if I have a repair that some of the labor or something has to be refunded, you can do that by just doing a return RO pretty quickly. Or conversely, maybe you have a job where you have to split the RO instead of having to go back and retype, other items. You can just split it and then remove information that you don't want to have on there. So find that to be very helpful.
Well, you mentioned before, as you were talking about the copy add function, that you just sold a unit and you need to replace that. But let's talk about a way that, let's say you had a really, really strong weekend and now you're going to have to replace several units on your lot. And so I know we have a function for ordering multiple units in one easy process. So let's go through that process as well.
Yeah. So that's a feature that's not widely used. Most of our trailer dealers are aware of it, and they would be the ones that use it mostly because they order in bulk. But for any dealer that would need to order multiple units, it's very straightforward. Just under the sales operation menu, you click on the new inventory PO here, and then you just check this multi-order box here. So if you click on multi-order, then you can say how many units you want to order. So let's say if you're going to order 10 units, you'd obviously fill in the stock number for the first one, or you might just call it order 10, for example. And then I'm going to fill in all of the other information about it that I need. So let's say it's a travel trailer and I'm ordering a bunch of 2025 Keystone Cougars. And obviously the more information you fill up, the more it's going to copy to the next unit. And then when you save that, it's going to create actually 10 units for you, or 10 orders. And so from that point, all you got to do is fill in the stock numbers for each one. It'll use order 10-1, -2, -3, -4, and then you would just go into each one of those units. Let me just do a search inventory of the on order and search that. And then down here, you'll see where I put in that order 10. Now you've got, you can see order 10-1 all the way through order 10-10. They're all the same units. It's the Keystone Cougar and any other information I put in about it. But now you just have to change out the stock numbers to something that, maybe matches my stock numbering system when those units come in, and just change them in stock. So very time intensive when you have to order a bunch of units, but with EverLogic, if you just use that multi-unit order feature, you can order a bunch all at one time and stock them in when they come in.
All right, well, let's move on to customer details and some of the different time savers you can have when it comes to customer management.
Okay. One of the things that barely anybody uses or knows about, something we added into the software probably 15, 20 years ago. But let's say, I have a customer come in. I'll just use you, Matthew. And I'm going to type in your phone number here.
It's 8675309.
8675309. Okay. And we'll save that. So now if I have to put in your address information, well, instead of actually typing in the city, state, and zip code, I'll just type in and your, all that stuff. I'll just put in your zip code. So 32256. I tab out, and it will fill in Jacksonville, Florida. So whatever zip codes you type in, it's gonna put in, the city and state for you. Just, one thing that's gonna save you just a little bit of time. But like I said, not a lot of people know about it. So
if you know the beginnings of carpal tunnel, that really helps out when you're trying to enter in all the customer information.
Exactly.
All right, well, let's move on to another one of our integrators, which is Global Payments, and some of the services they provide, particularly when it comes to POS. So you can, in EverLogic, I know you can manually key in a customer's credit card and process the payment that way, or you could use a processor with Global Payments. So let's go into how Global Payments works with EverLogic.
Okay, yeah. So I'll pull up an invoice here, and we'll kind of talk about it a little bit. So Global Payments is our preferred processor, and how it works is essentially in EverLogic, when you go to like if I'm going to sell something, for example, either in parts or service, or if I'm going to take a deposit. So instead of me clicking down in here and telling the system, hey, I took an Amex or I took a Visa or whatever, if I just click the credit card, process credit card charge, and if you're set up for online processing, it's going to send that information to Global Payments from EverLogic. And then Global Payments is going to send that down to a device that's going to be sitting at your dealership. So instead of it's not actually using or storing anything in EverLogic. It's just literally sending information to Global Payments. We're saying, hey, there's a sale here for $3,210. It's going to send it down to your Global Payments Genius device or whatever device that they provided you. And then the customer is going to be able to use whatever payment method they want. So with a lot of these new devices, you can use Apple Pay or Google Pay or whatever that device is capable of and what accounts you have set up. Or you can just tap a credit card. So if I have an Amex, I'll tap it and it will go back to Global Payments. It'll send it through the internet, and Global Payments will find out whether it's going to be approved or denied based on how they do that process. And then if it is approved or denied, it's going to send it back to EverLogic, and it's going to tell us, hey, EverLogic, this credit card was approved, and it tells us what credit card type it was. So you don't have to fill in that it was an American Express. It's going to already know that. Or if it was a Visa or Discover card. So by already knowing this information, it can just pre-fill it. So you don't have to sit there and key it. The other thing that's very helpful is in EverLogic, if you're using Global Payments as a processor, we have a report that you can go to. It's our card transaction processing report. So it's our card processing report. And basically you can put in a date range and it'll go out and reach out to Global Payments to their service, and it will pull back any transactions that have been run. So you don't have to log out of EverLogic or go to a separate website. It's just all built into the system. And that's something that happens if you're using Global Payments as your merchant provider. Now, if you decide that, hey, you don't want to use Global Payments as a merchant provider, then you can just simply tell EverLogic how you took the payment and what the payment amount was. So if you have a terminal or some other device that you're processing payments through, you can continue to do that. You just have to tell EverLogic how you took the payment so that we can cash the invoice out.
All right, next, let's go into QuickBooks. And of course, we've had a relationship with QuickBooks for many years, really since the start of EverLogic. But this is different than maybe the integration that everybody's familiar with. This has to do with QuickBooks Online banking. So can you go into that integration with EverLogic and exactly how that works and why that might be valuable for a dealership to look into?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people are familiar with how we do the end-of-day processing and how we're sending deposits and information like that over to QuickBooks. Well, a lot of that information gets deposited into an undeposited funds account. With QuickBooks, they have an online banking feature, which I think is fantastic. We use it with our, in our business, to reconcile bank accounts, and it's very, very handy. And I wish I could show it to you, but I don't have a demo account with a demo bank. But that being said, when it comes time to doing bank reconciliations, QuickBooks does a lot of auto matching. So, when you're depositing money into your bank account, and then when you download bank transactions, it will auto match. So if you brought a deposit to the bank of, let's say, 7 different checks or 15 different checks, and that total was $15,000. Well, once you make the deposit in QuickBooks, you just check off the checks you're going to deposit, make that entry for $15,000. When it comes time to reconciling that account, it's going to auto match that deposit in QuickBooks with that. So literally things that used to take you, maybe an hour or a couple hours to reconcile a bank account, it literally can take you 5 minutes. And it's a matter of just reviewing, going, oh yeah, everything matched up, and then moving on to the next account. So if you're not using, the online banking with QuickBooks, it's something I really highly encourage you, to try out. And if, get with a QuickBooks Pro advisor and make that happen, because it's going to save you a ton of time.
All right, next we're going to talk about the little E on EverLogic, the green E. We have lovingly called it here for years the hexi, for the hexagonal shape of our beloved E. But let's talk about the actual function of the hexi, and again, how that can help save you some time.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that our software does that people don't often remember to use, but they probably know it's there. It's something that Microsoft does with a lot of their products, and we follow suit with it. But if you click on the hexi or the green E on the top left, and you look over here on the right under recently used, you're going to see everything that you've recently done, the last 10 things you've done in EverLogic. So a lot of times people go to that quick search, or they'll search for a quote or whatever. But if it's something you just did, you just go down this list. So remember earlier we talked, I entered you as a customer. Well, there's your customer record right there. I just click on it and it opens up your customer record. So I don't have to go through and search for anything and then try to choose it. Just click on the hexi, go down to exactly what I'm wanting to see. So if it was a purchase order or a part number or anything that I've pulled up a form in our system, it's going to be right there for you. So really helps you out. The other thing it has common functions that I'm going to do, like entering a new customer, a new quote. That's on the left side. But I think that the most recently used list is probably the most helpful and biggest time saver that you can use in the system. So if you didn't get anything else out of this webinar, that's the one thing I would like you to remember.
Well, next, let's go into the ADF importer and exactly, what is that? And again, how does that save you, a few seconds of time here and there to make everything more efficient?
Yeah, so good question. A lot of like website providers use this standard called ADF, which is Auto Data Format. It's been around for 30 plus years. I mean, it's been around forever. As long as I've been in the industry, people have been talking about ADF. But essentially what ADF is, it's a formatted email. And that email will just comes from like your website provider. So let's say I went to autotrader.com or Boat Trader or RV Trader or your website that might be hosted with like one of the main companies that we work with, Web Manager, those types of companies, where they can send this email, a formatted email, directly to EverLogic. You just had to basically say, hey, have your provider send it to adf@everlogic.com. And then there's certain things that have to go into the email, but we can work with that provider to tell them what it is, like in terms of like your dealership name and things that we can read. But if it's in that ADF format, we have a processor, we have some software on our server that says, that's a listening. And when that email comes in, it says, oh, okay, Matthew, this just came in from, Matthew's RV, for example. And we can take that information and we can process it and we can put it right here in our leads funnel. So we can process the information. Anything that may have come in will show up in this leads funnel. And then from there, you can just pull it up and send it in. So instead of you having to rekey these leads, all you need to do is send it into adf@everlogic.com. We'll read it. It'll be there. And then you can just add it to your system. It's very, very simple.
Lastly, let's talk about inventory feeds. And I know a lot of these features we've talked about have been with EverLogic for a long time and have changed a little over the years, maybe a lot over the years. But this is something that we are currently expanding upon. So can we talk about inventory feeds and how that's where that is today and where that's going to be in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of website providers will accept a file, and it has to be, it's a formatted file, and generally speaking, it's in a format called XML. And basically what XML is, just a tagged file. So like, for example, if I'm sending an inventory feed, I'm going to be sending across all of maybe your in-stock inventory to your website provider. And let's say that website provider, is our preferred provider, which is Web Manager. We send that feed directly to them in this XML format, and then they read it. So what we do is we just tag all the information. So if it's like the year, we might put 2 year tags around the actual year, which if it's 2025, it'll have year before it, 2025 in the middle, and then it'll have year after it, so that the processor can read that file and know where the information is supposed to go. But this works with pretty much every website provider that's out there. This is something that's been in the industry for a long time. The next step after inventory feeds is direct inventory through what we call an API, or an application programming interface. And that's where it's more of a live real time. So for inventory feeds, usually what happens is, if you request an inventory feed to go to your website provider, or to like another company like Boat Trader or Auto Trader or RV Trader or something like that, where we would send it directly to that vendor. It's usually to an FTP server, which is File Transfer Protocol. It's just basically a server that's listening for this file. So we send it to them, then they process it. It usually happens daily. It's like a once a day thing. So your information is not going to be any older than a day, but it's not going to be real time. When you go to an API, which is what we're developing with some of our preferred partners, then it's real time. So when you're looking for a piece of inventory, and if some information has changed, we have ways in software development where we can actually make sure that information is real time. Where, hey, I make a change in EverLogic, it's also going to send that information to my website provider. And vice versa. If it's a bi-directional interface, then if something changes on the web, it'll notify EverLogic, and we'll be able to update our information. So these things are coming. It's going to replace the feeds eventually. That's what customers would rather see, real-time information, because if that RV sold, you're going to want to be able to let customers know so that it's not available anymore, or if pricing changes, or if information about, maybe somebody input the weight wrong or something, and you want to fix it, you can fix it in one place and not have to fix it all over the place. And so when that's available, we'll let everybody know, but that's going to be really powerful, really powerful.
Well, that's going to bring us to a close to the top 10 time savers with EverLogic. But real quickly, I just want to get your opinion on the value of these processes. Obviously, these processes aren't required to go through to execute your day-to-day operations with EverLogic, but they can help and they can save time. So can you just go through the value of using some of these strategies and knowing EverLogic in and out to increase the efficiency of your dealership?
Well, I don't think I could have said it better, Matthew, than what you just said. But no, seriously, the more time that you devote to learning whatever software tools you're using, it's going to make your job much easier, because you're not going to be sitting there struggling, trying to know which buttons to click, how to operate a system. It's like anything. The more practice you have, or the more knowledge you have about it, it makes it easier to use, makes it easier to do your job. So I always think about, I have a daughter who plays basketball, and she practices for endless hours. So a lot of times it's very repetitive types of practice, or sometimes they're learning new plays, but they practice and then they know it, so that by the time they get into a game situation, they're able to execute, and they're able to execute, flawlessly. Same thing in a dealership. I mean, I've been to, purchasing a car on a Saturday, or being at an RV dealership on a Saturday, and it's pretty hairy and it's crazy, and sales managers they might be juggling 5 or 10 customers at a time. The last thing you want to be doing is fumbling around your software trying to make that deal happen, because customers will get frustrated. So, learn the tools that you have that you're going to be using to operate your business, and then it's going to make it that much easier to really focus on what you need to focus on, which is making sure that, your customers are being taken care of and providing them with the best possible experience. And that in turn will, lead to success at your dealership. So anyway, thank you very much for interviewing me for this. It's been awesome.
Well, thank you for doing it. And thank y'all for watching. And if you are interested in any of the integrators or partners that we have mentioned in this webinar, we would highly encourage you to reach out to us, ask questions about not just the partners that we've talked about in this webinar, but any partners that we may have. So if you do have questions, or if you're interested in trying one of them out, please give us a call. We'll help organize that for you. But other than that, we really do appreciate y'all enjoying our webinar today. And for Mike Goodwin, I'm Matthew Copeland. Thank you for watching.